friends, it's Father Jay. I am a day late today and this week in getting you your weekly update, partially because our offices were closed on Monday in observance of Memorial Day. And so not only do I appreciate your patience, but I hope that you had some time to both spend some time with family and loved ones, and also to give thanks and remember those who have served our country in wars and given their lives for the liberties that we enjoy today. Part of how Calvary is working to honor and remember those who have fallen in wars or served in wars, and those who know firsthand the impact of traumatic events, is to install an area in our churchyard, in that part of our churchyard that a couple of years ago was cleared from trees. And in that space, we are working to install a veterans memorial. And rather than having the type of memorial that lists specific names or something along that line, we are working with a landscape architect to design a space that will invite folks in and offer them the opportunity to reflect on their experiences and renew their connection with their Creator and the Creator of all that is, to see the beauty of creation in front of them and reconnect with that power that's greater than themselves, our God, our Creator, who's working to redeem all things. So we're taking the stones that previously held the plaques, the memorial plaques that were removed right at the beginning of the year. We're going to take those stones and we're going to move them out into that area, and we will place them out there, but they won't be permanently placed yet. They will be there, and that will be an opportunity for all of us to go experience them in that space, to think about, to imagine what that space could be, and then go from there into designing what the final space will look like. So I invite you, once those are moved, to come out and experience those and see what you think about them. I appreciate everyone who over the past couple of weeks has been present with us in worship and in celebrating the Eucharist. And I'm reminded of a fact that a friend of mine pointed out a while back, in terms of how we transition from one experience to another. And specifically, he was talking about soldiers transitioning from war in the times before motorized transport and airplane transport. People would move from a war, from a battle back home, often on foot or by horse, taking weeks or months to transition. The same was true, after the Second World War. Soldiers came home on ships, and that journey home could take weeks, if not longer. But beginning perhaps with Korea, certainly in the Vietnam War era, so many soldiers would come home on plane and maybe have been in a combat area at one moment and then 18 hours later have been in the United States. The Gulf War participants and veterans have experienced the same thing. Doesn't necessarily give a person the time that they need to transition from one mindset into another mindset, to let go of one set of behaviors that were appropriate to that experience and move into a new period. And not that we have been in battle, and not that we have been at war in that way, but we have, for the last 15 months or so, been striving to use a specific set of behaviors in order to contain this COVID-19 pandemic, in order to keep not only ourselves, but our neighbors and our friends safe. And as a result, we adopted all sorts of behaviors that we are now being invited to let go of. But I recognize that it's not always easy just to simply let go. And so oftentimes we need to take time to transition. And so that's what we are doing here at Calvary. We are taking steps one after another. A couple of weeks ago, we started reintroducing congregational singing. And in the coming weeks, this week we will increase the capacity of folks present in the space, and we'll return to using hymnals at the 10:30 service. So you'll see the hymnals back in the pews at that time. Some of y'all have asked, where are the cushions? Can we please have the cushions back? Our seats are hard. And, well, here are the cushions. And they're taking center stage at the moment. We're continuing to try to understand the impact of using porous materials in a space. And as we look towards bringing back the 8 o'clock service, probably on June the 13th, as we look towards bringing that service back, we want to be sure that the materials that are in the nave, in that space, are safe for everybody to use. We know, for instance, that we can safely put the hymnals back because they are just used in the 10:30 service. And the hard surfaces, the risk of transmission is very, very low, but the soft surfaces, we're still working to understand what the impact of that is. The same is true of how we distribute communion. We're continuing to use, for instance, the trays and the small cups rather than the common cup. And we're continuing to have folks receive communion on the floor of the nave rather than in the chancel and kneeling. And there are several pieces behind that. Some of it is making the Eucharist accessible to as many people as possible, particularly those with mobility issues. There's also the concern about proximity to one another, how close together we can get, and certainly how do we welcome people into the space and to the communion table. But I recall having a wonderful conversation after the service last week with a parishioner who wanted to be sure that we continued to center the Eucharist in our lives in a way that was solemn, that was respectful, that gave the proper respect that is due to the presence of Christ in our midst. And I think that's a very, very well thought and well spoken, well articulated concern. And it's one that I share, and it's a tension that we will continue to be trying to work through. And I invite you into that conversation to understand how we both live into our theology of invitation and into our understanding of the ministry of all of the baptized, while at the same time maintaining and showing the reverence that we have for Christ as we find Christ in the Eucharistic liturgy. So those things, I think, are things that are probably reconciled in God's consciousness, but still are things that we are working through in our world and trying to reconcile to one another. One way we are exploring those issues and exploring ways to live into our Eucharistic life is through some special services that we'll be having throughout the summer, Eucharistic services, beginning this Sunday evening at 6 o'clock and following pretty much every other Sunday evening after that, which means if you have been, for instance, out of town over the weekend but would like to engage in Eucharist, have a service after you come back, then we can look to those Sunday evenings at 6 p.m. And each service will be a little bit different. We'll try to incorporate different elements, maybe some more contemporary music in one part, or some more folk traditions in another part. But again, just kind of giving us the opportunity to explore ways of expressing both our welcome and our reverence and work through the balance of that. So if you are either interested in having the Eucharist at a different time or celebrating the Eucharist in a different way, then please come join us this Sunday evening at 6 p.m. and look for future offerings on Sunday evenings throughout the summertime as we explore all of those opportunities. We're really looking forward to this, looking forward to stepping back into worship together, to taking those steps one at a time so that we can all feel comfortable with how we regather, and so that we can all feel confident in the measures that we are taking. I know that you are navigating a lot of these same issues in your own worlds, in your own lives, in your day-to-day life out in the world, and so I do ask God's blessing on all of us, and pray that God will bless you and keep you, that God's face will shine upon you and give you peace, both now and in the days to come. Amen.